Kisyuk Wishnam. Kisyuk Kyukit. Kisyuk Quiet. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Welcome back to another Wealthy Warriors, coming from the unceded Coast Salish territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh people. That's in this vicinity where I live, where I reside in, is in Burnaby, British Columbia, as I talked about last week and my episode last week. Yeah. And this morning I want to give a little bit of gratitude, and I want to show some thanks to Native Coffee. This is not a sponsored ad, but they have been genuine enough to hook me up with this Native Coffee hoodie, which is very comfortable. I really like it. They hooked me up with a Native Ground Coffee sticker, and they hooked me up with some coffee. And I love coffee, I love coffee for the taste of it. And I'm one of those coffee kind of people that got a French press. I grind my grounds with the actual grounding machine that gives me the proper texture for a French press. I boil my water. I let the water sit. It's 4 minutes. I allow my water to sit after being boiled, because some people don't realize this, but if you pour boiling hot water on coffee, it actually hurts it, and you don't get your fullest potential out of it, just like yourself. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about getting the best out of every situation that you can. So I'm drinking out of my little Buffalo Bison mug I got right now. Some good coffee. Go check them out. I'm actually going to provide a link to their Instagram page in the description. So go check them out, support them. They got some amazing coffee, some funny little merch they got too. And it's unique, I don't know why, I love coffee so much. And I remember before the whole situation happened in the pandemic, I remember someone in my community, I believe it was my Nupika, he was talking about how my grandpa used to do a coffee dance. And I don't remember much about it, but as being Indigenous, we always show gratitude for everything. So we had a dance and a prayer for basically everything on earth. So I just thought it would be unique that I would just tie this in real quickly with that and give them a massive shout out for this, for the merch and the coffee. I truly appreciate it. So go support them. They're a small Indigenous owned company trying to make it in this, world. And today's topic I want to talk about is doing things alone. And some people struggle with codependency. Myself, I never realized that, but due to past childhood traumas, I suffered from codependency, and for the longest time I had to do anything with someone else, and recently, I went out for breakfast to one of my favorite spots in East Vancouver. It's called the Red Wagon, and I went alone, and I've gone alone on a lot of things before, and I never realized how powerful it is to go alone to certain things, and how certain people look at you weird if you go to things alone. And one thing I do love going alone to is the movies. You know, most times when you think of a movie, you think of going on with your friends or going on a date or going with your spouse or your loved one, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. And not very many people go to the movies alone. But you think about it, you're sitting in a dark room watching a movie. Why wouldn't it be normal to go alone? Because you're not talking with someone, you're not interacting with them, you're not even directly looking at the person. You're looking straight on at a screen. And people kind of find it weird that you go to a movie alone. I've had people look at me very oddly. But it was when I first went, I remember the very first time I actually went to a movie alone. And it was I was really nervous. I was kind of scared, to be honest. And after I had sat up from the movie, I forgot I was alone. And I felt very proud that I was breaking some trauma that I never knew that I really had behind that. And I've even went on trips alone. When I travel on the Powwow Trail, I 9 out of 10 times go alone. I'll end up meeting people there. I always know someone at a powwow now. But when I very first started traveling to powwows, I picked myself up Tuesday afternoon from Vancouver, British Columbia, and I drove basically 80% across Canada to Ottawa, Ontario for a powwow. And I did that alone. And you learn a lot about yourself when you travel alone. And it's very powerful, actually. So if you're someone like who I used to be, and you struggle with codependency issues, you have to have someone near you all the time. You could go all out if you want to and go on a trip alone, but start small. Start off with baby steps on anything. Go for a coffee alone. Go have breakfast alone. Go by yourself and see how it is. And then slowly work your way up to, go to a movie alone. Going to a movie alone was one of the powerfulest things I could ever do for myself. Because I struggled with that trauma. And now that I think about it, it's something that I think most people should do. Honestly, I do. I think a lot of people should try going to the movies alone, just for the fact that you will grow and you will push the boundaries on what you think is normal. People are people say, oh, I wish things would just get back to normal. I wish things would just get back to normal. That's the thing I hear. But what happens if the normal wasn't working for you before? Maybe this whole pandemic situation was a wake-up call for you to create a new normal. Because I've talked about it prior, but the subconscious mind does not like change. It likes normal. It likes to go the easiest route possible to save energy. So why not create a new normal, a healthier normal? Because even the subconscious mind, it doesn't matter if it's healthy for you or not. It's going to want to do the simplest way. Even if it's bad for you, it'll do that way. And if you look back on your life and you think about it, your normal before the pandemic might not have been serving you. And one thing you can check up on, if that's true, is the next time you do something think about how much more grateful you are for that. One thing for me was here in British Columbia, they just recently lifted the mask mandates, and it's up to a business now if they want to keep it on or not, if they want to reinforce that procedure right now. But it was very odd, but it was a good odd, that when I went to go to a store, I could see people's faces. I could see them smiling. And I was like, I took that for granted before, right? Most people did. And I just thought, oh man, it's so cool that I could see someone smiling now, that I can have a full interaction with that human being, and I can understand the energy that they're feeling at that time. And it was so weird because it's something that wearing the mask was just normal, right? It was a normal thing. And still it's funny that the day of, or the day after they lifted the mandates, me being, just being me, being rebellious, I guess, I went into stores enjoying not wearing a mask. Well, at least 96% of people still wore them. And that's okay, right? That's their choice. I'm not against that. I'm not gonna, talk bad about anyone else on their choice, on their life. I don't know their circumstances, but my circumstances with my life, I just want to not wear a mask anymore. And it's nice that I don't have to actually carry a mask on me at all times now. I can just walk into a store and I can interact with people fully, have that true interaction with a smile and talking, and you can read their lips and you can read their facial expression. So I just thought that was super neat. So if you take anything out of this whole conversation this week, I suggest that you work up to going to the movies alone, and how much you are going to grow from that. And it's such a simple thing to do that most people overlook it. But it's honestly truly hard to explain that feeling after the movie's over and you get up and you went alone. It's pretty powerful. And I choose to go out for breakfast alone sometimes, or whatever, right, to go eat. And that's another powerful thing too, because it's, you don't truly know yourself until you actually spend time with yourself. And me was like traveling across Canada basically alone, and I traveled alone the majority of the summer. I believe it was like 90% of the summer I would travel to powwows alone, and I would meet up with people there. Sometimes I would get in a little convoy with people and we would travel together to powwows, but most times I was just driving alone. And it was super, super empowering for myself. And, you need to create a new healthy normal for yourself. Whatever works best for you, do it. Because the things that I talk about, they've worked for myself. They may not work for you, Some things that I talk about may not reside with you or work with you, which is okay, right? And most people get so asphyxiated saying, you're right, or I'm right and you're wrong, vice versa, right? And people have to think that since we don't agree on something, we can't be friends. If you don't agree with me, I can't be your friend. If you can't agree with me on this, we're enemies. We're sworn enemies till the end. When in all reality, you could just disagree and be okay with that, and just understand that you are not always going to agree with everyone 100% of the time. So that's why you should love yourself, because you're going to be with yourself throughout your whole life. And that's one thing you're going to start to do more as you start to do more things alone, is you're going to love yourself more by going, when you go to the movies alone. You're going to go to, eat some food alone, go have coffee alone. You're going to love yourself more. And that's one thing that people do lack nowadays, is loving themselves, because we're so used to social media, and people are so used to comparing themselves to others. People are so used to comparing what I have, the followers I have, the discipline that I have, compared to themselves. When you compare yourself to another, you hurt yourself. You're doing yourself a disfavor. The only person you should be comparing yourself to is the person you were yesterday, the person you were a year ago, the person you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. That's the only person you should ever compare yourself to, because you versus you. When you stand in a mirror and you look in the mirror and you try to look around that mirror, who is in your way? You are. You are always in your own way. Think about that. Any situation that has came up in your life, who is in your way? Yourself. You imagine yourself standing and looking in a mirror, and you're fighting. Say you put your fists up. When you go to jab, who's jabbing back at you? Yourself. If you go to throw a hook or a power shot, who's swinging back at yourself? You are. That's in life. As in life, we are our own worst critics. But we need to start getting past that and start loving ourselves more. Understanding that you are in a marathon, not a sprint. And how a marathon is run, how it's won, is one step at a time. Not a time-based thing. It's one step at a time. And that's what life is about. So start to love yourself more. Start to be more patient with yourself. Start to talk to yourself more kind. Make that your new normal. And I'm basically, I guess I'm done now, I'm done for the podcast. Shout out to Native Ground Coffee for the merch and the coffee. Like I had mentioned before, just go check them out. Go give them a follow on Instagram. Go support them. You don't have to buy merch from them. Go support them just by giving them a simple, quick follow and a like on some of their stuff. That's more than enough, And the same here. I never asked to, get sponsored by them. I just wanted to give them a shout out because they were kind enough to shoot me a message and offer me some coffee, offer me some swag and a sticker, because everyone loves stickers, right? So go support them. And thank you for all the support by listening to this podcast, by supporting it on whatever platform you do, because that does help me. That shows that the work that I'm doing, someone out there is receiving it in some form. So on Winnegit, Dagas, and Sukini, See you next week, my wealthy warriors. And remember, everything always happens for the right reasons. Bye.